So, guys, today we see a topic. First of all, morning, everyone. I want to expect morning from everyone, guys. Morning. So today we start NAT actually. What is a NAT? It's a topic. It's there in CCNA. It's a very much important topic and a good topic actually. I already said multiple times this about this to you about why we started the subnetting. So NAT means Network Address Translation. You can see the name Network Address Translation. So we know that there is something called private API and public API, right? So what is the main difference? So public API in the sense it will be a paid one and it will be we can receive with the applicant applicant INA. Okay. So INA will produce this public IPs, which is a paid one. There is something called private IPs. So private IPs are is a free IPs, which will be provided we can use anywhere. So inside our organization, the the companies will use the private IPs, but for communicating with the outside world, there is a public IP which is configured in the router another end. So we know that this is happening, but how we can convert from private IP to public IP and public IP to private IP? It is done by the NAT. That's why it is called as a network address translation. It is translating the means it is changing the IP address from public to private and private to public. Okay, let's see one by one. So, so you can see the network address translation. So what is network address translation? NAT is a process of changing one IP into another. Same thing, right? What I said, the same thing. NAT is a process of changing one IP to another IP. Okay, and NAT is usually used to translate from private IP to public IP and vice versa. It is changed. So if it is going outside the router, it's a private IP to public. But if it is coming from outside to inside, then it is a public to private IP. Okay, NAT is used to save precious public IP address. So NAT will save the public IP address. So public IP address, you guys know the range. It will save the NAT IP address. Okay, and it provides a security. So how come it provides security? Because the outside world will knows only the public IP, not the private IP which is used in my server or my PC. Okay, that's why it we can tell it as it provides a security. So next is like so there are some guys, you guys know the private IP, right? Private IP ranges. There are some certain private IP ranges, okay, in each classes of IP address, okay, that are used to reserve the private and network. These addresses are called as a private network. You guys know that one, right? These addresses are not routable on WAN and internet. So these IPs won't be used on internet. So for class A, this is the range, and class B, this is the range, class C, and this is the range. So it starts from 10 network, complete A means is slash 8 network, and means slash 8 sub CIDR value, and class B 172 was in 16, and from 172 16,002 to 172 31,00. Okay, so next is a class B, at least class C 192 168,00, and it ends at 192 168 255 255. So this is like a single means to like slash 24. This one is slash 24, and this is slash 6 slash 16. So these are the private IP ranges. It's very much important. So you guys already knows this, but still I'm telling you again the just for reference, because here we use the private IP ranges for internal inside the organizations. Okay, these are not routable for valid on internet. Okay, so next, so again this is a already we saw multiple times about the private IP and public IP difference. So first of all, private public IP used on internet, it's a public network, sorry, public network IP. Next, private IP used within the organization, okay, which is in the LAN or private networks. It has a unique over the internet because there is no IP will be replaced with the that IP. It's a unique IP which is used over the internet. And if you go for private, it should be a unique within the LAN network, not the outside world. It's not in the internet. It's an within the organization. Okay, might be you can use multiple places. Okay, assigned by ISP or INA. We can tell also an INA. INA can assign these IPs. Here, assigned by network administrator means we are the network administrator. We can assign this IP. Okay, need to purchase from internet service provider. Okay, we need to purchase from internet service provider. It depends on the region whether it is a APNIC or INA, sorry, ARNIC. So we have different regions. So it depends on the region. The service provider will provide the IP range. Okay, and these IPs are free. We can use it anywhere. But it's a unique within the organization. But if you have multiple organization with multiple locations, you can use this private IP anywhere inside this locations or organization. Okay. So next is there are three types of NAT actually. What is three types of NAT? First of all is a static NAT. Next is a dynamic NAT, and NAT overload is also a type of dynamic NAT. Okay, so how it works? Static NAT means one-to-one mapping. So how one-to-one mapping is like is between local and global. For example, I have one network which is connecting to the internet. So that one network will be mapped with one IP address, one private IP will mapped with the one public IP address. So that is called as a static NAT. Okay. So dynamic NAT is like mapping from a global pool. Okay. So global pool to multiple global pools and global IPs. So from one to multiple IPs, it is called as a dynamic NAT. Okay, just a minute, guys. It's called as a dynamic NAT. Just a minute. Okay, so there is a come something called overload NAT. As a NAT overloading. So many to one. Here we can say tell it as a many to one. So one real internet IP, to many internal IP. So if we are reaching from outside the world or outside the internet, from the outside the organization, so one IP will access many internal IPs. So that is called as an PAT. Okay, also called as an PAT, which means port aggregation. Port address translation. So it means the single IP configured in the router will access multiple internal IPs. So that is called as an PAT. Okay. So next is like what is static NAT? Again, so one private IP address is mapped to one public IP address. Okay, generally used for hosting public services. Okay, so generally used for hosting the public services, internet to server. It generally configured from inbound server traffic. So from inbound traffic, generally we configure this for inbound traffic, not done outbound traffic. Okay, so you can see this is an example. So how the private and public IP will work. So you can see 10 network. You guys know this is an private IP, and you can see this is an public IP. Okay, this is not in the private IP range. So this end I can configure with the private IP, and this end I can configure with the public IP. So what happen is it will goes to the router with this IP range, and it converts the IP to this IP, and it gives to the server. Servers knows only this IP, not the private IP which is configured inside the organization. Understood? So next, so how we configure? So there is something called NAT pool. Okay, these are all like sorry, keywords which is used in the command. Okay, so NAT pool is an IP address pool. Okay, which is used inside global or outside local address for translation. So there is something called inside global, outside global, inside local, outside local. Let's see that in our next slides. Okay, then you can come to know. Okay, then there is a pool name. For this NAT pool, you need to have a pool name to access all the IPs in the same time. Okay, this is the name of the pool. We can choose any descriptive name here. Okay, then start IP from the first IP first IP from the IP range which is available for the translation, and end IP range, the last IP range address from the IP range which is available for the translation. Okay, then subnet mask. So subnet mask is a mask which we used for the range, whether it's a private IP or public IP, which we use inside the organization, and outside which range you need to access. Okay, then overload. So it maps many private IP address to a single IP address using ports. So what does it mean? With the help of a single port, okay, the name itself, it is there, it's a PAT. The single port will will map with multiple private IP. So private IP which is there inside the organization. So single IP which used in the ports will map to multiple IP address which is used inside the organization. So which is called as an overload, or also we can call as an PAT. Okay. So next is there is some four simple steps to the NAT. So what are the things required before we configure the NAT? Okay, so first we define inside and outside interfaces. So we want to confirm whether I want to do the policy, means NAT, within the organization or outside the organization, means. So it should be defined first of all, so inside or outside the interface. Then define the ACL. So why we need ACL? Access control list. Yesterday we see, right? Access control list. So what is the use of access control list? Which IP I want to use, which IP I want to deny, which I want to prevent, whichever I want to deny, we can do the ACL to do the perfect natting. Or if it is that also, if it is required, we can do it. And define outside pool. So it's not much mandatory. Outside pool, it's differ. If you get companies will provide you outside pool, then we can uh, allow and deny with the help of ACL. Also we can NAT with the outside pool, so that we can communicate with the IP address with the help of NAT, and then we can start the NAT. This is how there are four simple steps we can follow with it while doing the NAT. So next is, like, you can see, this is an actually good example. So just I said, right, so what is inside local and inside global, outside local and outside global. So you can see, so this side router 1 will translate the so you can see there are two types if they are there inside with the it's like the R1 will have a local organization as 10 network. It's an inside local. Okay, so 10 network 10.1.1.0, it's an inside network which is used inside my router. So next is like inside global. So what is inside global? From here I translated this network from 10 to 20, like 20.1.1.1.0, this network. Okay, this is a public IP. Okay, this is a public IP. So if it goes to the internet here, so once the internet, so there I can, here also the natting is done. So what happened is the IP address, the what is it, the public IP address which we receive from the internet is an outside global. Okay, and which IP is not translated from a IP range which is 192.168.1.0. It's an private IP from the outside local. For this network, this is local. Even if you change the scenario in this way, in alternate, in a reverse way, so then this is a inside local, and this outside global is an inside global, and here the inside global will be a outside global, and this inside local will be a outside local. It's vice versa, it may change. And the internet, what the IP we use is a public IP, and inside the organization what the IP we use is a, it's a private IP. Got it? So next is like it's also an example. So how we use, so you can see I have a two IP range. I means I have a 10 network class CA private IP, 10.2.2.50 with a PC, 10.2.2.3 with a server. So I have a switch. So in this router I did natting. So what happened is my IP means this is my IP range 10.2.10.2.2.1. So here I am doing natting to the outside world. So this is an inside local, this is a outside local. Okay, so outside local you can see 172.26.10.90/28 is my IP address. So if I access internet, means this is a Google IP address, okay, DNS address. So what happened is it goes to the internet, and from here it goes to the server. So this server will know only the IP address 172.26.10.89, means it's in the same range. Okay, so here it know only this IP address. From here it access this IP. From here it goes to the router, and router will translate that IP to 10.2.2.1, and we can the PC will access here. So PC will knows this IP 8.8.8, but if it is NATed, then it might be changed. But PC will know this IP, but this Google server will know only this IP range, not the IP which is used inside the organization. Got it? Any doubts? Okay, and you can see the available global IPs here slash 28, right? So still I have this many IP range. So it might be used for different routers if I have multiple organizations. Understood? So again, it's the same. There are three types of NAT. One is static, another one is a dynamic, another one is a PAT. Means it's a PAT NAT overloaded. Okay. So this is how we use in the types of NAT. Let's see how come it works and all. So you can see this is it's an example. So means configuration how we do inside a router. So first of all it's a interface Ethernet, and I assigned an IP. So this I mentioned as inside IP NAT outside. You can see this is an public IP. Okay, this is an public IP. So I mentioned this IP outside the network. So then after exit I can give this this an outside. Okay, this an inside. So I will assign an IP 172.16.1.1. So you can see this an private IP I assigned as IP NAT inside. It means I assigned this end as an IP NAT inside, and this side as IP NAT outside. So this is how we configure the NAT. Then at last, if we want to exit out of the interface, okay, then IP NAT inside. Actually, this is a command. So IP NAT inside, then it's a source. Source is a where from where it start. Then it's a static NAT. It's not dynamic. I am mentioning as a static NAT. Then 172.16.1.10 from here. Okay, here to this IP 209.165.201.5. So I am giving this to this IP range, to sending this to IP. Okay, so simple again. I am telling you again. Um, So IP NAT inside, I'm configuring inside the source. Source is static from where 1.10. This is my one. The PC is 1.10, and where I'm mapping 209.165.201.5. I am mapping one IP to another IP. So this is called as a static NAT, and this is the configuration for the static NAT. Understood? So you can see what how the configuration are defined. So static NAT configuration, it's a definition how the interface. So first of all, I want to configure interface with an interface type and interface number with the interface. I want to configure IP address. So then IP NAT, whether it's a inside or outside, I want to mention. So configuring NAT here. Okay, not there it's only on interfaces. Here configuration of NAT. So IP NAT, then source, static, and private IP and public IP. So one IP configured with a another private IP configured with a public IP. So this is how it works. Okay. So next again I'm showing an example here. So one-to-one mapping. So static NAT, we can see I configured 10.1.1.IP from this PC to a public IP 76.4.3.7 to a public IP, sorry, private IP to a public IP. So this is how the NAT translation. So for these three IPs, three PCs, I configured in a router with the three public IPs. So this is the static NAT. Okay. So you can see again I given multiple example for your better understanding. So you can see 192.168.1.2 is my source. Okay, I am sending this to the destination, the server. It crosses the internet and it have a server 173.194.64.102 from here. So when the packets come to the router, a router will change the IP, then it will change the source address, source to 67.210.97.1. Here it will be changed, and for this server it come to know the source is 67.210.97.1 and the destination is 97.173.194.67.102. Again, if the server sends a packets, server puts its source address as 173 194 67.102 and the destination it is changed as 67 210 97.1. Okay, so it means this is the destination. Again it comes to if it comes to the router, so again this source IP is same 173.194.67.102. It will be goes to this PC 192.168.1.2. Okay, hope you understand this, guys. Yes. So next we can see already I show you in the image. So we can it's like there is some address types in the NAT. So it's inside global, outside local, and outside global. So actual address assigned inside the host, it's an inside local. Inside global is like inside address seen from from the outside. Okay, what is the address we can see from the outside? It's an outside address. Outside local is like actual address assigned to a outside host. So outside global is like outside address seen from inside. Okay, from here what is the IP address I can see? It's an outside global. Okay, so global address are visible on both the local IP address, not the inside address. Okay, so these are all the troubleshooting commands. Okay, troubleshooting verification command like show IP NAT translation and show run, show include NAT, then show IP NAT statistics, then clearing the NAT translations. So we can do this commands. These are the four commands which is very much important while troubleshooting the NAT configuration. So next is like a subpat. It's also called as an overloading. It's a dynamic NAT. So you can see many private IP addresses are mapped to one public IP address. So for example, inside our organization we have multiple address. We translating with the help of single IP address with a port number which is called as an PAT. Okay, configured for outbound traffic. From inside to outbound traffic we configure this one, and from, for example, you can see LAN to internet. Okay, all users can access internet at the same time with the help of this IP address range, as it is configured with the single IP. Okay, so this is a configuration for the part. You can see first I configure the interface type, interface number, then IP, NAT inside or outside, whichever I want to do. And what is the configuration? It's an interface configuration for the part. Here is a configuration of part. So if we get outside the interface, then IP, NAT, it's an inside or outside we want to mention. Then source list. Then what is a source list? Means that we have a list of, for this we have ACL number. Okay, we want to mention the ACL number, then interface and interface type. Okay, so next is like then interface number as well. Next is, then it's a overload. We want to mention this command overload, for we are making with the help of the single interface. Okay, so lab is pending, guys, as you mentioned. So we'll see the lab in upcoming classes. Any questions?